Sometimes.
Mm.
Sometimes someone starts talking and you just feel it, right? They're words. They're not just sounds. They have this weight, this presence.
Yeah, that quality that just cuts through all the background noise.
Exactly. And then other times, maybe you speak, you say something important.
And just kind of vanishes. Doesn't land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to just disappear into thin air. It's frustrating.
It really is. And well, that feeling is incredibly common. You're right. There's often a huge gap between just talking and communicating in a way that truly resonates, that carries real influence.
Absolutely. And that gap, that power behind the voice, that's exactly what we're diving into today. This deep dive is all about understanding how to speak like a leader, how to make your words matter, how to make them actually, lead.
And we've got some fantastic source material to work with here. It's essentially a deep exploration into what gives words that weight, that presence. It's drawn from an audiobook, really focused on this exact topic.
Right. So our goal with this deep dive is to pull out the absolute core principles from this material. We want to figure out what truly makes the difference between just, adding to the noise and genuinely leading with your voice. And I think most importantly, we want to uncover those direct practical skills you can start using right away.
Yeah, get ready to maybe look at your own communication habits in a completely new light. We're going to unpack why true confidence isn't necessarily about being loud.
Right.
How strategic silence can actually be incredibly powerful, and even how simply being mindful of your tone can build immediate trust. It's quite something.
It really sounds like a masterclass in communication. Gets right to the heart of why some voices carry that weight and, others just don't. Let's just jump straight in.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's kick things off with what this material lays out as the absolute foundation. It starts with this powerful idea. If people don't feel your words, they won't follow your voice.
Wow.
That hits hard, doesn't it? It's not about being heard. It's about being remembered, being felt.
That's a crucial distinction.
And the difference, according to the source, between just talking and leading with your voice isn't volume at all. It's about, let me get this right, precision, clarity, strength, and timing.
That's right. And what's really emphasized from the get-go is that leadership communication, it originates from presence.
And
it's not just technique.
Presence, okay.
This material argues you have to own every word you say with full confidence. That's really the starting block. If your words don't carry that conviction, they're perceived as just making noise. And as we know, noise is pretty easily ignored.
And the way it defines confidence is key too. It's not presented as loudness or, needing to show off.
No.
It's defined here as genuinely standing behind your words, believing what you're saying, and maybe most critically, taking full responsibility for every word.
That responsibility piece is huge. If you don't truly stand behind it, why would anyone else listen?
Exactly. Which brings up a really common communication trap we all see and probably, let's be honest, fall into sometimes. This material highlights how most people speak halfway.
Yeah.
You hear it constantly, phrases like, I think, or maybe, I guess, I'm not sure.
Those hedging words.
Oh, tell me about it. I catch myself doing that sometimes. Why is using that kind of language so detrimental, according to this research?
Because, quite simply, nobody follows someone who sounds unsure. That language, it introduces doubt into the listener's mind. They sense this lack of full commitment or certainty from you. If you're not grounded in what you're saying, they won't feel grounded in following you. It makes sense.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
So if that's the pitfall, how does this material suggest we build that foundation? How do we truly own our words?
Well, there are several core steps outlined. First, and this is a mindset shift, you have to make the conscious decision that your words do matter.
Okay.
You need to mean what you say what you mean, own it. The goal is for people to feel you're serious, that you're grounded, that it's not just talk, it's who you are.
It sounds like authenticity is really the bedrock here.
It truly is. Second, be mindful of the words you actually select. Speak with intention rather than just letting words, tumble out of habit.
Right. Not just filling air.
Exactly. Third, preparation is presented as non-negotiable. The insight here is powerful. If you don't know the material, your voice will shake.
Wow.
Leaders prepare, they think deeply, they reflect, they achieve clarity internally first. The power in their words comes because those words have already been tested in their own life. They're speaking from lived experience and conviction.
So it's not just about knowing the facts on a page, but having integrated them, having them feel personal and real to you.
Precisely. And critically, there has to be alignment between your words and your actions. You can't talk like a leader if you're not living like one.
That's a tough one, but true.
It is. This resource really stresses that people listen more to example than explanations. Confidence isn't just something you project, it's earned through consistency.
Makes sense.
Finally, and this is a powerful one, stop apologizing for your truth. Don't shrink your message to make others comfortable.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Leaders, according to this, speak to be clear, to lead. Be firm, be real, own your truth, even if not everyone agrees with it.
There's a line in the material that really stood out to me. When you walk into a room and speak, the room should feel it. But it immediately clarifies, this feeling isn't about being loud.
Right, it's described differently. It's about being solid, you're steady. It's that feeling of presence, that quiet certainty.
Solid and steady. I like that.
It means actively avoiding soft language to protect your ego. If something isn't right, you have the grounded presence to just call it out directly. That quiet solidity is what truly makes a room feel your presence.
And this connects really nicely to the idea of silence, which this material highlights as like a tool.
Absolutely. Confidence, according to this resource, means being okay with silence.
Which is hard for a lot of people.
It is. Insecure speakers often rush to fill every single pause, maybe out of nervousness or feeling awkward. But strong communicators, they understand the power of the pause. You say something significant, something important, and then you just stop. You let it land. That silence speaks just as loudly as your words. It gives your message space to breathe and really resonate with the listener.
So your voice is meant to be a tool, not your crutch. You're not just speaking to impress or fill space.
Yeah.
You're speaking to serve a purpose, to lead towards something better. Stop focusing on impressing, start focusing on impacting.
That's the core shift.
Yeah.
The fundamental takeaway from this whole first section is really simple. Own every word you say. Stop hedging. Stop outsourcing your voice. Stop doubting your message. When you speak with conviction, your confidence, your presence, and your capacity to lead all naturally start to grow.
Okay, so once you've built that bedrock, that confidence in owning your words,
Yeah.
how do you make sure that what you're actually saying is received, understood, and ultimately trusted? Because those are different things than just having conviction.
That's exactly right. And that's where the next crucial elements come in. Clarity and control.
Clarity and control. Okay.
This framework insists, speak clearly so no one misunderstands your message. That's one of the most important habits. It's not about using big words or sounding academic.
Right.
It's fundamentally about being understood. And the logic follows. When people understand you, they tend to trust you more, they're more likely to listen, and then action becomes possible.
And the risk of being unclear,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's pretty high stakes.
It really is. If your words don't land clearly, the connection breaks down, respect can erode. This material warns that when people are unsure what you mean, they start filling in the blanks. And they rarely guess in your favor. That's why the emphatic statement is made. Clarity is everything. If your message gets lost in translation, so does your potential influence.
And the responsibility for achieving that clarity, it falls squarely on the speaker, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This work stresses that the speaker takes full responsibility for making your message clear. This isn't passive, it requires intentional effort.
Like what?
Thinking before speaking, consciously slowing down your pace, stripping away unnecessary language, being specific. It's always about focusing on being understood, not on trying to sound smart or impressive.
This really resonates. I mean, I see this happen so often. People talking really fast, rambling on, assuming everyone's on the same page.
Right, we've all been there, and this material makes a powerful, maybe even uncomfortable point about that. Unclear words create unclear minds. If people are confused after you speak, that's not their fault, it's yours.
Oof. Okay, that puts the onus squarely back on us, the speaker.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we actively build these practical skills for clarity? What does the source suggest?
There are several really direct strategies offered. First, and it sounds obvious but isn't always practiced, know what you want to say before you say it.
Plan ahead.
Yes. Be specific. Say exactly what you mean and strive to say it in one straight line. Avoid those confusing tangents. Second, be ruthless about editing yourself. Cut extra words.
Less is more.
The guidance is clear. If you can say it effectively in 5 words, don't use 15. Too many words just dilute the core message and cause people to tune out.
So brevity really is a tool for clarity.
It absolutely is. Third, use words people understand. You need to speak their language. Meet them where they are. Avoid technical jargon or overly complex terms if your audience won't grasp them easily. Your job is to simplify ideas for them.
Makes sense. Meet them where they are.
Fourth, and this one's often counterintuitive for people, slow down. Speaking too fast often signals insecurity or nervousness. Slowing down actually shows control. It shows thoughtfulness. And critically, it gives your audience time to process what you're saying. This resource points out that sometimes that pause makes people lean in.
That makes sense. A deliberate pace definitely feels more authoritative, more considered.
It does. Fifth, develop a strong awareness of tone. Your tone is described wonderfully as your attitude made audible.
I like that.
It carries immense meaning that words alone just can't convey. You need to ensure your tone matches the message you intend to send, serious when needed, energized when appropriate, calm when the situation demands it.
Got it.
Sixth, stick to one main point per key communication moment. Don't try to throw everything at them at once. Build your message around one clear central idea. This material actually refers to simplicity as strength.
Simplicity is strength.
Okay. And finally, once you've made your main point clearly, repeat your main point once. Not, 5 times out of insecurity,
Why?
but once with certainty, just to help it land. And throughout, continuously pay attention to reactions, body language from your audience, watch their eyes, their facial expressions. Maybe ask, does that make sense? Not as a filler phrase, but as a genuine check for understanding.
That's a good point. Make it genuine.
And this material also reminds us that your own body language matters too. Your posture, your presence, they all contribute to how your message is received.
Wow, that really lays out a clear blueprint for achieving clarity. Which leads us right to the other essential piece in this segment. Controlling your voice itself.
Yes.
This material is quite firm on this, stating, control your voice before you try to lead. That's not a suggestion, it's a requirement.
Strong words.
Yeah. Your voice isn't just an instrument for words. It's presented as your presence, your attitude, your energy made manifest.
And if that voice is shaky or hesitant or uncontrolled, people will instinctively pull back. They react to how you speak just as much as, sometimes more than, what you say.
So your voice reflects your inner state.
That's what this research suggests. It's a direct reflection of your inner world. And the warning is clear. The more emotional noise lives inside you, the harder it becomes to speak with strength and direction.
So what does this leading voice actually sound like, according to the source? Is it booming?
Not necessarily. It's characterized more as steady, calm, grounded. It doesn't need to be loud to command attention. Instead, it commands attention by using a steady, calm, grounded voice that tells people, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to guide you.
I'm here to guide you. That's powerful. And the impact of that kind of vocal control.
The effect is significant. When your voice is controlled and steady, people feel safe around you. That steadiness fosters trust. Unpredictability in voice, on the other hand, creates anxiety. And the point is made very clearly that leadership is not about making people feel anxious. It's about giving them direction they can count on.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so how do you actually develop this kind of vocal control? Where do you start?
Well, it starts with self-awareness. This material notes that most people are surprisingly unaware of how they actually sound day to day.
Really?
Yeah. Recording yourself speaking, maybe on your phone, can be a powerful, if sometimes confronting exercise.
I can imagine.
Ask yourself honestly, do I sound confident and certain? Or does my voice betray a kind of hope to be accepted, maybe a slight questioning tone? Second, consciously choose your tone. Don't let your emotions automatically dictate it.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It takes practice. Learn to maintain a calm tone even when you're feeling frustrated internally, or channel excitement into steady, grounded energy rather than a shaky high pitch. Leadership requires demonstrating emotional control, and your voice is a key way you do that.
I imagine breath control is pretty critical here too.
Absolutely essential. Shallow, rapid breathing fuels that fast, nervous speech pattern. Deep, slow breathing anchors your voice, making it stronger, deeper, and more deliberate. The advice is simple. Center yourself with a few deep breaths before important communication moments.
Good tip.
Fourth, knowing when not to speak is also presented as a form of vocal control. A powerful voice isn't always talking. It knows when to pause, when to think, when to truly listen. Fewer words, delivered with control, often carry much more weight.
Right. That silent skin.
Exactly. And finally, like any skill, you simply must practice. Train your voice daily like any other skill. Rehearse things, adjust your approach, pay attention to your tone and pacing, even in small, everyday interactions, not just the big speeches or presentations.
So it's not just about the technical sound like pitch or volume, but the energy behind it, isn't it?
That's a huge part of it. Your voice needs to carry belief. It needs to show you care, that you're present and invested. It doesn't require shouting, but it does need to be alive. Your voice should reflect that you are fully engaged with the message and the moment. Vital. That's where the training really pays off. Your voice shouldn't crack or lose its steadiness under pressure. This kind of control means staying calm even when things are falling apart. That ability to maintain vocal stability under stress is precisely what builds trust when it matters most. The quiet calmness is what people remember from a leader during a crisis.
That's so true.
So the clear message from this section on control is really train voice daily. Reflect on how you sound. Maybe record yourself sometimes. Actively seek feedback from trusted sources. And practice speaking under various forms of pressure. Your voice isn't just a part of your leadership, it's often the most immediate, undeniable proof of it.
Okay, so you've established that core confidence, you're speaking with clarity, and you're controlling your voice with that calm steadiness. Now, the big leap.
Yeah.
How do you actually use that voice to get things done? How do you move people from just listening to actually acting?
Yes. This is where the impact really comes into play, as explored in the next part of this material. And the central idea is quite stark. Say things that actually move people to act. That's what leadership communication is really about.
So it's beyond just informing or sounding good.
Way beyond. It's about creating movement, changing minds, inspiring action, breaking through inertia, getting people to take that necessary next step. Your words need to have a practical push.
And that's tough today, isn't it? We're all drowning in information and noise. Most words just seem to bounce off.
They absolutely do. What actually cuts through all that noise, according to this source, is language that makes people feel something strong enough to shift them out of comfort and into motion. That's the real goal, to deliver words with that kind of kinetic energy.
Where does that kind of power come from? It can't just be technique.
No, it's rooted much deeper. It comes from knowing why you're speaking, from your internal clarity, your intention, and significantly from your personal experience. This material urges you to constantly check your motive, impress or impact.
Impress or impact.
Are you just reciting facts or trying to sound smart? Or are you speaking from a place that's been tested in real life?
The distinction is crucial because real words carry pressure. They carry weight. They don't float, they land. And when they land, people move.
Wow, they don't float, they land. I like that. So how do you actually craft words that land like that and inspire action?
Well, one key approach highlighted is to speak directly to their felt experience. Their pain points, their frustrations, the decisions they've been putting off.
It's specific to their reality. Exactly. This material suggests you don't need to say it perfectly. You just need to say it truthfully. The truth hits, the truth stings, but it also frees. It's about having the courage to say what needs to be said, not what's easy or comfortable for you or them. People are often tired of soft talk, of just waiting. They sometimes need someone to voice the reality, perhaps saying something direct like, "You've waited long enough, you've been hiding, you've been settling." This isn't about judgment, the source clarifies, but about delivering clear, necessary truth.
And tied right into that is avoiding the urge to over-explain, right?
Absolutely critical. Once you've delivered that clear, direct truth, the advice is say it once, say it clearly, say it with strength, and let it sit. If you start elaborating too much, adding qualifiers, giving endless examples,
You dilute it.
you lose the spark. Exactly. The point is made quite forcefully that people need clarity, not comfort. Your words should provide something clean and firm for them to hold on to.
Creating a sense of urgency also seems vital for getting people to move.
It is. This material states it pretty flatly. People don't move without urgency. Your communication needs to convey a sense of now. You need to show what's at stake. If action isn't taken, highlight what they stand to lose or the cost of continued inaction.
Responsibly, right?
Yeah.
Not just fear-mongering.
Precisely. The key is to trigger action with truth and consequence, not manipulation. Also, it's absolutely essential to use language they understand and make sure you sound real. If your message feels overly polished or artificial, people will instinctively disengage. You need to sound like someone who has walked where they're walking and genuinely understands their reality.
And this connects right back to that earlier point about aligning your life with your message. Your actions backing up your words.
Crucially, your tone carries your belief. If you're offering advice or direction that you clearly aren't living yourself, your words lose power. It's just not credible. But words spoken from your personal standard, from your lived experience, those hit hard. Your life has to validate your message for maximum impact.
The idea of giving people permission to change is also mentioned in the source. That's interesting.
Yes, it is. The insight is that many people are right on the verge of making a significant change, but they're looking for that external signal, that validation, that permission to step out of their comfort zone, to demand more from themselves. Your words, if delivered directly and genuinely, can be the very thing that pulls the switch and empowers them to finally take action.
One technique highlighted is particularly powerful and maybe potentially uncomfortable for some, the idea of confrontation.
It is. The source suggests that sometimes what is genuinely necessary to move people forward is a form of confrontation. This doesn't mean aggression.
Okay.
It means holding up a mirror, calling something out directly, but doing so not with anger, but with honesty. That necessary discomfort, that moment of truth, can serve as a crucial turning point for someone. Often people are actually waiting for someone to call them higher, to articulate the potential they aren't living up to, maybe by saying something like, "You're capable of more and it's time to act like it."
So it's really not about saying what's popular or easy to fear, but what's truly needed for progress.
Precisely. Leaders chase progress, not applause. The immediate reaction in the room might not be cheering, but your words, if true and necessary, will land and provoke thought. And if they carry that necessary truth, they will ultimately lead to movement and respect down the line.
And does silence play a role even here
Yeah.
when you're trying to move people?
Absolutely. Silence can be just as powerful. Delivering one strong, impactful sentence, maybe one of those confronting truths, and then allowing silence. It lets the message settle and resonate much more deeply than if you immediately start talking again.
Let it sink in.
Exactly. So to kind of summarize this segment on impact, the emphasis is on making the path forward simple. Break down complex challenges into a clear next step. Use really direct calls to action that are unmistakable, like start today, make the call, write it down, fix it now.
No ambiguity.
None. Don't clutter your message or soften its necessary edges just to be liked. Speak to the real issue. Be willing to say what others won't. When your words embody that combination of truth, urgency, clear direction, calm control, and certainty, the result is powerful. People stop delaying and start living on purpose. And this power, ultimately, originates from speaking from a place that has already moved you to act.
Okay, moving from the impact of getting people to move, let's look at how you build that sustained respect. And just as importantly, how you navigate and handle resistance when your voice or your message is challenged.
Right. This brings us to the idea of substance, and specifically the skill of using strong words that build respect and attention. This material points out, and I think it's true, that many people neglect developing this particular skill. The voices that people consistently follow over time are those that have substance, meaning, weight, and precision.
So what's the difference between weak words and strong words in this context? How does the source define that?
The core distinction really comes down to memorability and impact. Weak words are forgettable. Strong words are remembered. Those phrases we discussed earlier, like I think, maybe, I guess, or sort of, they're described as actively diluting your message.
They water it down.
Exactly. In contrast, strong words are clean, they are direct, they don't leave space for confusion. They signal that you've done the thinking, you've made a decision, and you're standing firmly behind what you're saying.
This feels very connected to that earlier point about not shrinking your truth, maybe coming from a place of trying too hard to please everyone.
It absolutely is. If your primary motivation in speaking is always to be soft, to avoid offending anyone, or to get everyone to like you, you inevitably end up saying nothing that matters. This material argues quite strongly that respect doesn't come from universal agreement,
Right.
but from clarity and truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable or challenging for some listeners.
So, strong words aren't necessarily aggressive or loud, but more unshakable? Is that the idea?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. The power isn't in aggression, but in being perceived as unshakable. It's about raising your standard, not your voice. And this strength, crucially, comes from a solid mindset, from internal fortitude, from earned experience. Leaders speak from conviction that is deeply rooted within them.
What are some practical ways this material suggests we can actually develop and use these strong words more effectively?
Well, a key starting point is to actively eliminate filler words. The anti-tati. These just create noise that distracts from your core message.
Clean up the language.
Yes. The call here is for precision, which often means saying less, but saying it better. You also need to consciously respect your own words by ensuring you're speaking with genuine purpose and intention, not just feeling silence or hearing yourself talk. The aim is for your words to be like anchors, things that stick with people long after you've spoken. The language of leadership is described in the source as bold, not reckless, confident, not arrogant, always clear. And this boldness and confidence aren't just projected attitudes. The source stresses that strong words must be earned. Your life must match message because your voice gains its true power and credibility from your lived example.
That consistency again.
Yes. Finally, always aim to bring value. Ask yourself before speaking, is this helping someone think better, act better, live better? If the honest answer is no, this material bluntly suggests maybe you shouldn't say it. Leaders speak to shift something, and this shift often requires honesty. Not cruel, but honest. Having the courage to say what needs to be said, clearly and directly. This type of clarity, even if it's challenging in the moment, is what builds respect in the long run. People might not always like it, but they will remember it and often respect you for it.
Okay, so building on using those strong earned words, the next big hurdle, as this resource points out, is handling the inevitable resistance you'll encounter. Chapter 7 apparently focuses right on this. Hold your ground when others try to shake you. That's what separates real leaders.
This is really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Anyone can sound confident and use strong words when things are calm and everyone's nodding along.
Sure.
The true test, the real demonstration of leadership presence, is when your words, your beliefs, or your decisions are actively challenged. That's when your presence gets tested.
Because the world will push back at some point. It's inevitable.
It absolutely will. And this material observes quite accurately, I think, that most people crack as soon as they feel discomfort or face direct opposition. They start to backpedal, soften their stance, seek approval just to alleviate the tension in the room.
And that loses all the strength.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It diminishes their strengths. True leadership is standing in your truth even when they don't stand with you or agree with you.
Why is holding your ground so crucial in those moments?
Because people, whether consciously or unconsciously, will test your resolve. They'll push your boundaries. If you are easily shaken, you lose credibility and trust very quickly, and ultimately, you won't last as a leader. You risk becoming whatever the external pressure molds you into, which this resource starkly describes as insecurity in disguise.
Now, insecurity in disguise. Okay, so how do you actually do that? How do you hold your ground effectively when you're being challenged?
First and foremost, it goes back to clarity. Know what you stand for. That internal clarity provides external stability. You need to define your values, your core message, your direction within yourself first. That way, you can stay anchored in what you've built inside when the storm hits.
Know your non-negotiables.
Exactly. Second, remember that this kind of strength is earned strength. It's not something you're just born with. It's built through repeated practice, through experience, through speaking up, even when it's difficult or unpopular. You train this capacity daily in small ways.
Okay.
Third, deploy calm certainty. Leaders don't escalate by yelling or getting defensive. They communicate with a calm, unwavering certainty. This material suggests that that tone cuts through the noise better than any argument you could possibly make.
So don't let their challenge or their emotion change your delivery.
Precisely. Don't flinch. If your tone or your core message shifts just because the room's energy becomes uncomfortable, you erode trust instantly. Consistency is what earns deep, lasting respect. You must say the same thing when it's uncomfortable that you said when it was easy.
That's a great benchmark.
Fourth, you absolutely must be okay with discomfort. Be willing to be the one person in the room who doesn't bend or concede just to ease the tension. Be steady, but the source distinguishes this from being stubborn. It's about principled steadiness. You don't need everyone to agree with you, but you must remain grounded in your position.
Got it. Steady, not stubborn. Fifth, meet tension head on. Don't avoid difficult conversations or shy away from challenges. Show through your demeanor that disagreement or questioning doesn't intimidate you. Your sense of self shouldn't be so fragile that someone else's doubt makes you question yourself.
Build that internal resilience.
Yes. Sixth, learn to handle those subtle challenges with composure. You know, the raised eyebrow, the slight smirk, the sharp or pointed question. Stay even respectful, but don't move from your core message or stance. And finally, a crucial point. Don't attack to protect position. When challenged, avoid becoming defensive or aggressive. Stay rooted in your truth and discipline because, as this work powerfully states, truth and discipline needs no defending. You can almost physically feel that energy shift in a room the moment someone tries to shake you or undermine your points.
You absolutely can, and that's the critical moment to rise to the occasion, not with heightened emotion or defensiveness, but with more grounded energy. People are keenly observing how you handle that pressure. Do you remain solid and steady? This is how you build a voice of trust, a voice of clarity that people will rely on. You don't owe a detailed explanation to every single challenger, especially those whose primary goal seems to be just to argue. Stay rooted in what truly matters.
Makes sense.
The concluding thought here is really powerful. Holding your ground is often a quiet display of strength. Silence can be incredibly potent in these moments of challenge as well. Steadiness, not emotional reaction, is what communicates true leadership. This unshakable presence is built through consistent practice day by day. The real edge in a leadership voice comes not volume, but conviction, not emotion, but clarity, not control, but consistency.
Right, let's move into refining the craft even further then. How do you get to the point efficiently? And beyond just being efficient, how do you make sure your words actually stick with people and have that lasting impact?
Okay, this leads us directly to the concept of conciseness, which is highlighted in Chapter 8 of the source material. And the objective is laid out very clearly. Make your point without dragging or over-explaining it.
To the point.
Pretty much. This material argues persuasively that the true value of your communication lies in how well you say it, not how much. It's all about precision over length.
Yeah, we all know what it feels like when someone just drags things out. You
Uh-huh.
would inevitably start to tune out, don't you?
Exactly. Attention spans are finite, probably more so now than ever. If you drag your message out, they start to check out. The core message, the important part, gets completely buried under an avalanche of unnecessary words.
So it distinguishes between being thoughtful and just being long-winded.
Yes, that's a key contrast. Thoughtful communication is described as direct, clear, and structured. Long-windedness, on the other hand, is often messy, slow, and tends to signal uncertainty. The source makes the point that more words don't always equal more understanding. Sometimes they create more confusion.
It seems this material also links that tendency to over-explain to a lack of internal certainty or confidence.
It does. It suggests that over-explaining is often a symptom of doubt. Maybe doubt in the message itself, or a fear that your point won't be understood unless you repeat it endlessly or hedge it with qualifications.
Interesting.
But the reminder is that leadership communication is about clarity, not control. Of precisely how the listener processes it, you are advised to simply say the truth and let it stand. Trust its power.
Beyond just keeping people's attention, why is conciseness considered so important for a leader, according to this source?
Well, fundamentally, it builds respect. Being concise demonstrates that you value other people's time and intelligence. It requires you to be efficient with your words, to get to the point and stay on it. It shows discipline.
This material offers a really useful, practical question to ask yourself when crafting a message. What was that again?
Yes, it's a great mental filter. Ask yourself, what's the purpose of the sentence if it doesn't move the message forward? Drop it.
Simple but effective.
And consider the true motive behind the words. Is the sentence genuinely needed to add necessary clarity? Or is it really there to soften the blow, protect your own ego, or just fill space? If it's not moving the core message forward, cut it.
There's a real strength communicated in that kind of brevity, isn't there?
Absolutely. The insight provided is quite profound. The more certain you are, the less you need to say. Power, in this communication context, comes from simplicity and discipline. It requires effort, real work, to distill your message down to its absolute essence, but it's essential for impact.
And people notice that.
They do. When clarity is paramount, people naturally turn to those voices that speak concisely and directly. You don't need to convince everyone with sheer volume of words. You need the right people to understand your core message clearly. Don't dilute it just to make it longer or sound more comprehensive.
And by being consistently sharp and concise, you're actually training your audience on how to listen to you effectively.
That's a fantastic point derived from this. If you consistently ramble, people learn subconsciously that they don't need to pay close attention all the time. If you're consistently sharp and purposeful, they lean in because they know each word is likely significant. This material also highlights the inherent beauty of simplicity. Complexity hides the impact. Simplicity reveals it. Strong voices are concise voices. And that pause after delivering a strong, concise statement. That's where the impact truly occurs, not while you're still talking, but in the space you leave after.
Let the silence do the work.
Precisely. It's also vital, of course, to consider your audience's existing knowledge level. Don't overteach or condescend if they're already familiar with the topic. Speak to the next level. Conversely, if they're new to it, guide them clearly without overloading them with too much information at once. Real communication is saying the right thing at the right time in the right way.
Which requires thought and preparation.
Absolutely. It goes back to that internal preparation. Clarify point internally first. That internal clarity naturally leads to external confidence and conciseness. Remember, there's no prize for length in communication. The true reward is being understood, making an impact, helping others move forward. Your message needs clarity, your belief behind it, and crucially, the discipline for you to stop talking once you've effectively made your point.
Okay, that flows perfectly into the final chapter covered in this source material, which is all about being remembered. It's about moving beyond just being efficient with your words to ensuring they have a truly lasting impact. The core statement here is, speak to be remembered, not just to be heard. That's where real influence begins.
Yeah, that's a significant step up. Talking is relatively easy. Crafting words that actually linger in people's minds long after you've spoken takes conscious purpose, intention, and real discipline.
We hear countless words every single day, right? But very few actually stick with us.
Exactly. The ones that are remembered, according to this source, are those that meant something, were clear, direct, delivered with weight. Leaders, true leaders, don't just want to occupy airtime. They want their words to leave a mark, to stay with people, and genuinely influence their thinking or actions over time.
So how do you actually say something that's worth remembering? What's the secret sauce there?
Well, the first step is you have to consciously cut through the shallow, performative talk that's so prevalent. You speak because you genuinely have something solid to share, something that can truly help someone shift their thinking in a meaningful way, spark a necessary decision, or, as the source puts it, elevate the listener in some way.
Elevate the listener. I like that.
This requires thoughtful preparation, deep reflection, not just speaking off the cuff or winging it. Your voice, in this sense, becomes a kind of unique signature. People might not recall every single sentence you uttered, but they will remember how your words made them feel, or if your words help them break free from delay, confusion, or fear. The aim isn't mere entertainment, it's genuine elevation.
Where does that memorable quality come from then?
The source of this memorability, this material argues quite strongly, comes from speaking from genuine conviction, from certainty, from what you personally live, know, and what has fundamentally shaped you. You don't need to speak louder, you need to speak real.
Speak real.
Truth, authenticity, that's what ultimately cuts through the noise and sticks with people. And pairing that raw truth with a simple but strong message makes it even more memorable and repeatable.
The material makes an interesting point related to that the easier a core message is for someone else to repeat, the more powerful it becomes because it can spread organically.
That's exactly right. You want your words, or at least the core essence of them, to live on in someone's mind, to echo in their decisions, to challenge their excuses when they arise, to serve as a constant reminder of what truly matters. This requires intentional word choice, treating your message with profound respect, and having the boldness sometimes to say what others won't.
And people crave that authenticity.
This material suggests they absolutely do. People are, as it puts it, hungry for words that mean something, tired of all the fake surface-level talk. They are looking for clarity, for power, for someone who can speak to their future self, their potential. Your voice, delivered with real substance and conviction, can fill that significant void.
So there's a clear difference between just being heard in the moment and being remembered long-term.
Yes, a crucial one. Being heard is primarily about immediate presence. Being remembered is about sustained purpose and impact. You need to be crystal clear internally on why you're speaking in this particular moment. What specific shift are you trying to create? What decision are you calling for? If you lack that clarity of purpose, your communication will feel unfocused and forgettable. But when your message is sharp and purposeful, the delivery and the resulting impact become almost automatic, not forced or contrived.
And this principle applies to every single communication moment, right? Not just formal speeches or big presentations.
Exactly. Every moment is a chance. Every conversation, every email you send, every brief interaction is an opportunity to practice this. Leadership grows fastest when you stop trying to sound good and start trying to speak truth.
Speak truth.
Real, unvarnished truth, free from performance or unnecessary fluff. Focus on clean sentences, a simple core message, and maintaining that strong, grounded presence we talked about. Speak with respect for your voice and the message it carries, because ultimately, impact lasts longer than impressing. The lasting power comes from speaking authentically from your truth life experience.
That makes sense.
And the concluding thought for this segment is really about the discipline after you've delivered that memorable message. Stop talking once said. Have the confidence and the trust in your message and in the listener to simply let it echo, let it settle, let it live. That is how you speak to be remembered.
Wow. So we've really journeyed through the entire landscape of leadership communication here. We've covered the foundational confidence needed to truly own your words, the essential blueprint of clarity and vocal control, the impact required to actually move people to action, building substance with strong earned words, the crucial skill of holding your ground under pressure. And finally, refining the craft for conciseness and speaking in a way that actually gets remembered long after you've stopped talking. That's a lot we've covered.
It is. It's a comprehensive framework. And
Yeah.
what really ties it all together, I think, is a fundamental shift in approach. a shift in intention. It's about moving from just wanting to be heard to aiming to be remembered.
Right.
From just adding conversational noise to speaking with intentional precision. From communicating from a place of underlying insecurity to one of earned, solid confidence. And ultimately, from simply telling people things to actively leading them forward with your voice.
And the real value of doing this deep dive, hopefully, is showing that these aren't just abstract theories reserved for CEOs or people on big stages.
Not at all.
These are concrete, direct skills you can begin practicing and applying today, right now. Whether you're prepping for a key meeting tomorrow, guiding your team through a challenge, or simply having a significant conversation with someone important in your life, these principles can make a profound difference in how your words are received and ultimately how much influence you carry.
We've really taken a deep look into this source material specifically to extract these powerful insights, aiming to give you, the listener, a real shortcut to becoming more informed and effective in what is perhaps the most critical skill of all, your communication.
And to leave you with a final, maybe slightly challenging thought today, drawn directly from the material we've explored. Before anyone will follow you, they will first listen to you. And before they listen to you, they will judge your voice. Not your accent, not your vocabulary, but the presence, the energy, and the control behind it.
That's quite a statement to reflect on. So the question this really leaves us with, for you to consider in your own life, is this. What is your voice saying about your presence, your energy, and your control right now, even before you utter the first word? And maybe more importantly, what small actionable step can you commit to taking today, starting now, to begin intentionally training that voice and developing its innate capacity to lead?
We genuinely encourage you to reflect on these points, maybe even revisit some of the specific skills and ideas we discussed throughout this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.